Okay, Kirk Herbstreit has updated his top six in college football after a kind of consequential weekend in the sport. I'm going to do my best to get this on the screen real fast. There it is. Okay, he's got Ohio State at one, the Tennessee Vols at number two, Georgia at three, Michigan at four, and then I think these are in order: Clemson and then Alabama. And like I said, it was certainly a big time weekend in college football. Do you think he's right? I mean, would you jump the dogs and put Tennessee up there? I don't think there's, I mean, I have to say, both Tennessee and Georgia have the best wins of anyone in college football because the only two teams ranked in the top 10 that have losses are Georgia, or excuse me, are the teams that Georgia and Tennessee have defeated, which are the Vols, excuse me, which are Alabama and Oregon, of course. But when when you take a look at the top 10, the AP poll, this is actually the way that I would do it. Georgia, Ohio State, then the Vols, and Michigan. I'm not sure I would put Michigan at four even, and then Clemson and Alabama after that. Oregon is at number 10. That's the only team, along with Alabama, that has a loss in the top 10. And as we go on here in the near future, there's going to be plenty of teams in the top 10 that have a loss. It's just the way it's going to be. Everybody's starting to play one another. And, we're not even halfway through the season. And we've seen how good uh, the top teams have played. Again, I'm not, well, it's kind of a moot point. It's something for all of us to talk about. We are seeing the typical, I guess you'd call it overreaction to any one weekend, and that's fine. It's what happens. I don't, I think my thing about this part of the season is we've already seen enough data that you shouldn't just go off one weekend. And for every time we talk about Georgia playing Missouri, we have to talk about Tennessee struggling with the Gators and surviving overtime with Pitt, a team that Georgia Tech beat. So, I think that all of that encompasses it. Do you have the best win? Yeah. I mean, the best win last season was either from Alabama or Texas A&M, okay, or Georgia, I guess, had the best win. But Texas A&M was an 8-4 team or whatever they were. They're always 8-4. But hey, look, make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION today. 80 pages. I know a lot of y'all are new to this. Right now, if you order this, you also get a shirt from our friends at Red Zone included for free. Make sure you're picking it up. It's a great book for the holiday season. Christmas is not so far around the corner. Some people do Halloween gifts. Have you heard about this? They are called 9-year-olds. We'll see how that goes. But I think, to me, the link is down below. But I do kind of wonder, uh, you know, we become prisoners of the moment all the time. Georgia didn't play well at Missouri. They get moved down from one to two. Alabama barely survives Texas A&M. They move down from one to two. Georgia goes back up to one. Um, Tennessee has, I can't think, in the last 15 years if Tennessee has had a bigger win than this one. I mean, you could argue the win over Georgia in seven or maybe some other, but this is the most consequential win, that Tennessee has had in certainly 10 years. I mean, because the last 10 years it's just been a disaster at Tennessee. Jeremy Pruitt was the head coach. So, um, so we're getting a lot of reaction to that. If the Vols don't play well against Kentucky, and they lose to Georgia, or they lose to Kentucky, which I don't think is out of the question. I would not pick that, but I don't think it's out of the question. Then that's what you're gonna, that's that there's going to be reaction to that. I think, to me, a little bit right now, if you don't have Ohio State or Georgia as your one or two, you're probably not watching football real closely. I think you can have Tennessee three. I would probably have Michigan three. But you know, the biggest mark against Michigan is a 7-point home win over Maryland. And I don't it's not been a horrible season that I can think of for Maryland, although they're always on the precipice of being pretty bad. This is what they do. I mean, they're 5-2, Maryland. I mean, that's not horrible. Golly, what if they beat Penn State? Man, that would be a bad look for your boy James Franklin. That would be a bad look. But um, I don't think that's. I listen. I would put. I've watched all these teams a lot, and I would put Michigan at 3. I would put Tennessee in front of Clemson. But if they played, I think Tennessee would win. I'm not certain they would win that game. If Tennessee played Ole Miss, who would win that game? You know, I don't know. That's a good question. But I don't trust Ole Miss. I think Tennessee would win that game. So anyway, we just kind of get to the point here where I really think that Kirk has an understanding of you know college football, needless to say. I also know that he lives in Tennessee, and that, or he did live in Tennessee for such a long time, and that sort of stuff can really can have an effect on things too. But I think if you want to make the argument that Tennessee's number 2 in the country, you have to say, well, they could have lost to Alabama, they could have lost to Pitt. It wasn't so hot against the Gators, but they did have really big wins against LSU. I mean, like lopsided win against LSU. Obviously, the huge win against Alabama. But have they really, the whole 7 weeks of the season, played like the second best team in the country? For me, no. I mean, when you look at Ohio State, their closest game so far was their season opener against Notre Dame, a team that we thought was decent. That is not. Notre Dame's 3-3 with a loss to Marshall. So, Georgia's best win is over Oregon. I guess their worst win would be. Um, I'm sure it would be Missouri, but even the win over South Carolina doesn't look horrible. I mean, they're 4-2 with a win over Kentucky somehow. So, I think just watching teams play, the three most consistent teams have been Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan. I think the team with the best win is either Tennessee or Georgia. When you think about, Clemson has gutted out a lot of wins. I think they should beat Syracuse again this week. Um, I just TCU, Ole Miss, that the way like Auburn shouldn't be in the same universe as Texas, excuse me, as Ole Miss. They just shouldn't. And you know, I hate to do this because I know. I mean, listen, Alabama is a really good team, a great program. They generally speaking, I just said they were a really good team. They might not be a really good team right this second. Their default is to win, and I understand that. But this has not been a great year for Alabama. I mean, you think about losing on the last play of the game, winning on the last play of the game against Texas, winning on the last play of the game against Texas A&M. I mean, Texas really, Tennessee outplayed Alabama, Texas outplayed Alabama. I'm not sure I would be comfortable saying that Texas A&M outplayed Alabama, but they were in position to win the game on the last snap. And how would we be looking at this game with Tennessee had they not had Bama already had a loss or two coming into it? So putting it all in perspective, you look at Oregon since they played Georgia. I mean, look, y'all, I was there obviously that day, and the Ducks just were not in the same universe as Georgia. And since that game, they have won, and I'll tell the teams too. They beat Eastern Washington 70-14. They beat BYU 41-20. They had a tight one against Washington State on the road. They won 44-41. Then they killed Stanford 45-27, and then they killed Arizona 49-22. They have a top 10 matchup at home against UCLA this week. If Oregon escapes that game and as a one-loss team, and they are almost a touchdown favorite for that 3:30 kick. I don't really know how. I mean, that is a really good win for Georgia. And that isn't a really good win on the last play of the game. Georgia crushed Oregon. The game was not competitive. So when you listen to Kirk talk about this, um, and I mean, I'm sure he's being a prisoner of the moment. All I'm saying is you shouldn't be, and that's all I would say. But anyway, hey, thanks for watching. I do want to mention it's a great time to take advantage of this deal from DoorDash. You see it right behind me on the screen. How do you take advantage? How do you get a deal that's 50% off of $20? For a limited time, our listeners can get 50% off of up to a $20 value and $0 in delivery fees when you download the DoorDash app. Enter the code DAWG, DAWG. That's 50% off, $20 value, zero delivery fees when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter the code DAWG, DAWG. Don't forget the code is DAWG, DAWG, just like Dog Post, for 50% off of a $20 value and zero delivery fees. Easy enough for me to say. With DoorDash, subject to change, terms apply. I think that we have entered, this off week for the Dogs will be a great opportunity to check everybody out. I think people should watch Tennessee. Florida does not play. Obviously, Alabama with a real big clash against Mississippi State. This weekend's not going to be as good in terms of matchups as last weekend. You do not have USC, Oregon. You do not have Penn State, Michigan. You do not have Tennessee, Alabama. But you do have some pretty good games. It's a great time. Look and see who, when they play, looks better than Georgia. I'm not talking about offenses exclusively. I'm talking about every aspect of the game. Um, you know, Ohio State's defense is really not that bad. Is Tennessee's? So these are all things that you have to consider when you're ranking teams, in my view. And again, I personally, and this is no disrespect to Tennessee, it's not. I would go Georgia 1, Ohio State, then Michigan, and then Tennessee. After that, I mean, Clemson's probably played the most solid against a pretty not great competition, but you could say that about Ohio State too right now.